All right, we are finished with Week 12. I guess somewhat finished with Week 12 because there still is another game to go. The good old Steelers and Ravens. And I want people to give me your comments here as we're live on YouTube or if you're watching this. Hope you're enjoying your week. I wanted to get right to my cash lineup. I just played FanDuel this week. I did some showdowns. I do the Madden streams every day. I've been telling people, if you want to win some money, do that. Why not? All right. Let's get right into it. I did cash. I thought this week was tough for a couple of reasons. Running back. I always like to look at the winning lineup. And I just did cash games. I did about $20 in cash games. I won all those barely. This is pretty much where I finished. Was in the 40s. And a lot of the winning lineups in cash games are GPP lineups. What is a GPP lineup? Well, cash games usually you don't stack. I never do. Cousins, Jefferson, that's a Rudolph. That's a stack. That's a hybrid lineup. He didn't run it back with anyone from Carolina, and I'm assuming Cal fan used that in every contest, GPP and cash. One thing I hated playing was this guy. I have noticed over the years of doing this, I feel like a lot of times the chalk fill-in running back stinks. I'm not a Brian Hill guy. But again, with cash games, you play chalk. Derrick Henry was on my radar, didn't play him for some reason. I thought Cook, but I'm not going to second guess this. Cook at home against Carolina, he got hurt partly, but a good pivot off of Cook was Cousins. This was a good idea what he did. You could see what he did even in a cash game. He pivoted off of the chalkier Cook, knowing that hey, Minnesota's implied total was 30. It's again this week. That doesn't mean that Cook's going to get all the touchdowns, right? You had Thielen out. This was a great play. This was great stuff. You had Smith out. Hill was the smash of the week with Tampa's slot corner being hurt. So this was a good lineup. And, even Keenan Allen, like this easily could have won the $1 million on another week because he had, let's see, where was the chalk? The chalk was basically Hill, but it was 5,100 that allowed him to get to Henry, Hill, and Allen. That's why you play chalk sometimes too. That's sometimes why players are chalk. Hill does a lot with salary. Now, my feeling when I built this, I don't like to go up in quarterbacks, but I felt that Patrick Mahomes was a no-doubter, and the only reason I cashed was not because Mahomes, because what was happening in those 4 o'clock games, every time he was putting up touchdowns, the cash line was increasing, and I was just treading water. So I remember being like 104, and then the cash line was 108, and then I went up to 108, and the cash line went up to 112. The Rams scoring a touchdown is the reason I cashed. 5% owned in a loss. I'm shocked at how low they were owned, but if any week was an automatic, the Saints defense was as automatic a play as any play in the history of daily fantasy because they had a practice squad guy throwing. Hamlin, it took him, 3 quarters to complete a pass? So New Orleans was the easiest smash defense, and I don't know if they had more than, the Jets was pretty good as well, and a good pay down. They're good at home. It's amazing. So look at, they're only 35% owned. A lot of it was the salary, but I got one more point from the Rams, and that's the reason I cashed. So at 4 o'clock, I had 46 of my 120 points coming from the two guys. Love my Gallman play. Ingram as well. Cincinnati, you attack their tight ends. Gesicki's a good play this week, I think. Maybe a GPP play, maybe a cash game play. Aguilar, not great, but not horrible. Keenan Allen, the 2 weeks I've played him, he's done nothing. It's unbelievable. I've played him both weeks. Priced up as well, but still scored. Beasley threw a touchdown pass, and that get game killed everybody. But I thought I'd run a little game stack for cash games. This is the luck. 43 points by Atlanta. He doesn't score one touchdown. And Mahomes was Mahomes. So I like my cash game build. Even though it wasn't great in terms of points, I'll take it. And I'll take the wins. You see, I barely cashed. But I will take it. Let's look ahead to Week 13 quickly. Because I do feel, and I like to do, I'm a team jam them in with running backs. Because running backs, and my lineup might have saved here. I was working on a lineup. I like to jam in running backs. And these two have terrific matchups. And they're a lot of money, but, look at, this is the have and the have-nots, yeah, something like that, but not completely. Stars and scrubs. Okay, David Montgomery against Detroit. Detroit's not good against stopping the run, as you can see. 28th. Not a bad game last week. Only 11 carries, but had 6 targets. So, this is, if you want to get these guys in, Cook and Henry and Aaron Rodgers, and now we certainly could pay down. I just like Aaron Rodgers at home. Ryan's at home against New Orleans. I don't love that. Fitzpatrick at home against Cincinnati. Cousins. I don't want to go Cousins and Cook. Even Wentz. I know he stunk, but it doesn't matter. This is where fantasy and reality don't matter. He's put up some pretty good numbers. You would imagine they'll be trailing in that game. Goff coming back. So you can pay down. I like in cash games paying up for these two. I just think it's that time of the year. If Cook ends up not playing, Carson's not a bad pay down either. But just the volume. There's not many volume guys in the NFL now, which makes it interesting with the playoffs. Are the Titans more of a legit Super Bowl team this year? I think that's why the Chiefs got Le'Veon Bell. I think they do want to eventually start running the ball more because in playoff times it's different. But for me, I like, these guys are home. I like Rodgers at home. Montgomery, though, is a starter. Now, 4,800 for receiver can be risky, but Will Fuller suspended. Brandon Cobb's out. Kute didn't have a great game on Thanksgiving with those opportunities, but should get more. Even if the targets go up to 6. Colin Johnson, Jacksonville. This is a risk. If Chark and Conley don't play again for $5,000, I'm plugging them in against Minnesota's defense. Jarvis Landry, kind of my game stack and a cash game. He's, not great games, but targets. And then I paid down on defense. I think you could do that, but let's just say we don't want to do that and we go with, I think Cook has the better matchup. Or let's keep the two in there. And let's just pay down at quarterback. Who would be someone you'd like to pay down with? I mean, would you do this? Everyone laughed at this guy. I had a laugh at all the experts last week thinking that this was going to be a cakewalk because Mike Lennon is starting. Mike Lennon's played in the NFL. Would you take this right now if I said, hey, you can get 18 points next week for 6,800? I'd lock him in. Then this makes you, get more creative with the receivers and plug someone in you like. Who are some guys we like next week? Haven't really looked at it yet too closely. I like guys with targets. This is a guy that had 5 targets. I think they'll be back next week. He might not be a bad guy to plug in, even plugging Johnson back in. But with FanDuel, you can really make, I think, better lineups than DraftKings. And then maybe one of these guys, Myers, Kirk, Perryman. I think you go for targets. Myers is the target guy out of that group. He might be a cash game play. These guys are deep threats. That's how you win some tournaments. So, we'll see. But I do like jamming in both guys. So I hope everyone had a good week. Good luck if you're playing those single game slates that are coming up. We have one tomorrow with the Steelers and Ravens. And